Ryan here with Prudential Pest Solutions. And in this video, we're going to go a brief history of bed bugs, how they've interacted with humans since early time, and how we're living in the final stages of the golden age of bedbug-free living. So the history of bedbugs really starts with the history of humans as a species. Now, right before, I'm going to go on a little tangent, but before we talk about the history of bedbugs, I need to tell you about bat bugs. So whenever we exclude bats or we evict bats from a structure, we always do a bat bug treatment. What's a bat bug? Well, a bat bug is a blood-feeding insect that's a direct cousin of the bed bug. They look almost identical, same size, same color, and they do the same thing. They feed on the blood of their host. Bat bugs feed on bats specifically. So when we talk about the history of bed bugs and how it goes all the way back to early primitive man or cave people, right, is that when humans as hunter-gatherers, early humans, lived in caves, what else lives in caves? Bats. So what scientists think is that the bat bugs that were feeding on the bat colonies for millennia found a new food source and evolved and became bed bugs because they were now feeding on the humans that were occupying those caves. Now, throughout human history, as humans went from being hunter-gatherers and cave people to more of an agricultural society where they started having permanent structures like houses, and then they started forming things like villages and towns and eventually cities, is that bed bugs were able to really thrive because it's harder for them when we're constantly moving around versus when we're stationary, right? In one area, in one house, in one room of one house, in one town, in one city, there's more people their population can grow, right? Just as the human population grows. So there's a direct correlation between human population and human density, really, in those population centers like villages and towns and bedbug populations. And so this has been going on since time began for humans, basically, right? So started out in caves, scientists think, from bat bugs, evolved into bed bugs, and here we are today. Now, throughout time, really until the 1940s, bed bugs were a huge issue for everyone. And how did they spread? Well, as early humans began doing more trade with, hey, the next village over, the next city over, the next empire over, bed bugs hitched a ride and they went along too. The first reported cases of bed bugs in places like London, for example, was in the 1400s. The Mayflower that brought the Pilgrims over and landed on Plymouth Rock reportedly infested with bed bugs. So what did folks do back then if they had bed bugs? Well, they did a couple different over-the-counter remedies, which obviously we would never do today. But some of the ones I wanted to highlight I found very interesting. The first one was they would take the drippings of a roasted cat, mix it with egg yolk, and then wipe the bedding down with that. Okay, pretty gross, right? The next one they would do is they would take a type of poisonous flour and mix it in a, quote, proper quantity of boiled urine, and then wipe that on the bed, which is gross. And then my favorite method from way back when was they would sprinkle gunpowder into the cracks and crevices of the bed and then light the bed on fire. And trust me, if you've seen some of the houses that I go into that have a major infestation, that would be my preferred method. However, the fire department says we can't do that. So, since time immemorial, bed bugs have been with humans and causing a big problem. But did you also know that even since way back in time, that they were considered a pest and a potion? So they would do things like they would mix crushed up bed bugs with certain spices and they would use it to treat any kind of ailment you have. In fact, the ancient Egyptians, they would mix crushed up bed bugs with make a potion for snake bites. And you think, well, that just happened thousands of years ago, right? Ancient Egypt. Even into the 1900s, there were studies that they were doing where they thought, hey, we could treat malaria with bed bugs, right? So it's not just an ancient civilization, those dum-dums way back then. No, even in the 1900s, folks were mixing bed bugs to try to treat things like malaria. And even nowadays, you'll hear stories that pop up in the news every once in a while of folks that'll crush them up and they'll try to use it as a drug to get, high. I can't attest to that. Don't know if it works and definitely would not recommend doing that. But I also want to just mention that this goes back thousands of years, but it's also a very recent trend. Okay. So as bedbug populations grew, as the human population grew, all right, they made it to the New World here in America just via the colonizing of the New World, right? Bedbugs hitched a ride on these ships and now they're here. And the populations of the bed bugs just exploded in the 19th century, right? Cities got huge, industrial revolution, people were living closer together, and bed bugs became a real problem. And the problem that folks had back then, especially early prototype exterminators we had, was that we didn't have any kind of chemical that could not just kill them, but last, right? Because if you don't get every nook and cranny, the bed bug populations are going to continue. So what changed in the 1940s? Well, a product called DDT came out. Now, DDT had been around since the early 1900s, but it didn't become really commercially available until the 1940s because our brave soldiers in World War I and World War II over in Europe fighting the Great Wars, right? They were coming back with bed bugs. It was a big morale issue as well. So they had to come up with something. So DDT comes out. It's an inexpensive pesticide. It does two things. It kills the bed bugs, but most importantly, it was the first insecticide that not only killed them on contact, right, but it also had a residual, meaning that if I sprayed this surface here, but a bed bug's not on there, but later a bed bug crawls across it, it's still going to die because that ingredient is still active. And this DDT was an absolute miracle for bed bug treatments. Okay, now we're not going to talk about any of the health hazards or why it was banned or anything like that in this video, but I'm just saying from a historical context, the 1940s, the 1950s, 1960s, the bed bugs were almost eradicated worldwide because of DDT. All right. Then when DDT is banned in the 70s and the 80s, now we start seeing the bed bug populations tick up again. Now, do we have similar products nowadays that we use to treat? Absolutely we do, right? Same kind of concept where, hey, if I spray this surface or I treat this surface and there's a bed bug right there, of course it's going to kill the bed bug, but also it has that residual where if the bed bug's not there and we treat that, it comes across it and it dies, okay? But DDT did such a phenomenal job. It was so inexpensive and it was so widely used that it almost eradicated all the bed bug populations. Again, DDT is then banned in the 70s and 80s. And as a result, we can see the bed bug populations increase again. So when you think about bed bugs in the context of all of human history, the majority, 99% of human history, bed bugs have been a really big problem, right? Even if it's just a nuisance. You know, bed bugs don't harbor disease, they don't transmit disease, but it's this idea that, you know, you're most comfortable, you're supposed to be the most comfortable in your house, but more specifically in your own bed. And the idea that something is coming out in the middle of the night to feed on you is a very, very uncomfortable, horrible feeling to have, right? Even though the bites don't hurt and they don't transmit disease, it's that the mental and emotional toll that they take. So from the 1940s to the 1990s almost was the golden years of bed bug, of humans not having to deal with bed bugs on a day-to-day basis over a large scale of people, right? And now we're at the tail end of that. So DDT is banned. International travel is the highest it's ever been in all of human history. So that's gonna start, that's gonna move populations of bed bugs around as well. And now we're starting to see those bed bug populations increase again. Now, how do we know there's a direct correlation between humans traveling and bed bugs? Let's look at 2020, for example, right? The year of COVID. Everything's locked down. Folks aren't traveling. Not just my company here at Prudential Pest, but as an industry, okay, bed bug treatments dropped substantially. And I'm not saying that as a negative. I mean, that's great that folks weren't having bed bug issues. I'm happy for them. I am. But the reason why was that because people weren't traveling. They weren't going house to house to house or on vacation or visiting family or visiting friends. They were stayed put. And when you stay put, you know, you have a better chance of dealing with the bed bugs because you're not introducing them to others and you're not having others introduce them to you. So throughout all of human history, bed bugs have been a problem. And we've seen that, you know, they've been viewed as a pest and a potion. I view them obviously as a pest. And we have some great videos on what we do, how we look for them, how we treat for them, and what you can do as a homeowner, whether it's in your own home or on vacation, to ensure that you don't bring these blood-feeding pests to your house. So that's a brief history of bed bugs, how it's correlated with human history, and I think that's really, really interesting. So if you have a bed bug issue and you live in Berks County, Chester County, Lancaster County, or southeastern Pennsylvania, it's time to call the professionals at Prudential Pest Solutions. You can reach us at 484-401-4361 or find us online at prudentialpest.com.